the way she handled herself on the campaign trail. I think it was better than some of the Democrats thought, but she really hadn't planned out what it was that her vision was for the United States, and I think that that's a fatal flaw for any candidate.
Coming up, Donald Trump has passed his 100-day mark, but the battle to put him in the White House has been dubbed jaw-dropping, heart-pounding, head-turning contest in American history, according to a new book chronicling the campaign. We're going to speak to its co-author, NBC's Jonathan Allen, next. This is Adam Bolton here on Times Radio. Last year's American election campaign was a race for the White House like no other, featuring assassination attempts, court cases, and the withdrawal of a borderline senile nominee, Joe Biden. Now, in their new book, Fight Inside the Battles for the White House, two authors, Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes, chronicle the resurgence of Donald Trump and the collapse of the Democrats, which took him back as the 47th president. And we're pleased to be joined now by Jonathan Allen, who is also NBC's senior political reporter. Hello to you.
Good to be with you.
Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. It's a great read in line with your other previous bestsellers. I was just wondering, can you put your finger on a point last year when it became inevitable that Donald Trump was going to be re-elected?
Yeah, I would say basically mid-October, and of course anything can happen in an election that is close by historical standards. This was a pretty close election. Trump won it clearly, convincingly, but still close enough that you would say that, you know, if he'd had some sort of debacle at the end, I guess it could have changed. But basically, Vice President Harris had difficulty explaining what kind of change she might bring to the United States. And I think that reaffirmed the view that that she was basically like Biden. And he had been offering the same program while he was the candidate, and it was not sticking with the American people. So there was a point where she sort of caught up to Trump in September, early October, and then fell apart when she was unable to answer the question of what she was going to do to make Americans' lives better.
I mean, your book, the inference I've taken from it is that you think Joe Biden and the Biden family, including his wife, carry quite a lot of the blame for not getting out of the race earlier.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to undersell President Trump's performance. It was the best of his three campaigns. But at the same time, if you're looking at the Democratic side, I think many Democrats, probably most Democrats, would say that President Biden should never have run for a second term. And yet, as we report in this book in detail, there really was no discussion about whether he was going to run. It was more about what the timing would be and what the logistics of it would be. Despite the decline that was obvious to people around him, he went forward and basically sold to the American people the view that he was just as strong of body and mind as ever. And of course, that wasn't true.
Do you think the mainstream media, of which you're a senior member, must bear some of the blame, perhaps, for not exposing Biden in the way that they could have done?
Yeah, I mean, it's not for me to issue a mea culpa for the entire mainstream media. But I can say with certainty that myself and my co-author Amy Parnes, both in our day jobs, did everything we could to report on all aspects of the Biden presidency, including his mental fitness. Over the course of 4 years, the White House was very difficult to deal with on that topic, particularly on that topic, as well as many other things, which is not surprising. White Houses are difficult to deal with. But I would just point to our previous book, which is called Lucky, How Joe Biden Barely Won the Presidency, where we started to detail how he was losing speed off his fastball way back in 2019, 2020. I mean, this is not something that, obviously the exact state of Joe Biden at any given moment isn't something that we were privy to, but we could clearly see, as anybody who watched him could see, that there was a decline.
And was there a better alternative than Kamala Harris?
I think it's impossible to know, but I would say that if the Democrats had decided to skip over Harris, the first woman of color to be vice president, particularly with, just a few weeks before their convention when Biden got out, I think there would have been so much blood on the floor that whoever, emerged from that, if it wasn't her, would have been permanently crippled.
I mean, that slightly suggests that, one of the big liabilities of the Democrats was, as the Republicans keep on saying, was wokery.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say any vice president, that would be true, but particularly with the way that the Democratic Party works. Yeah, I mean, her race and her gender were not only an implicit factor, they were an explicit factor behind the scenes. Senior Democrats were talking about the damage that would be done if they skipped over the first black woman to be vice president, and that includes members of the Congressional Black Caucus who made very clear that they would not brook that, and that was a threat to the Democratic Party, basically, that they wouldn't have their strongest base, which traditionally has been black women, the most likely to vote for Democrats with them in the general election. So, yeah, I mean, you phrase it how you like, but the short answer is that was a non-starter within the Democratic Party.
And Kamala Harris herself, a lot of people say she was a dreadful candidate. Do you agree?
I think she had some strengths and she had some weaknesses, but the big weaknesses were really big weaknesses. And she was considered to be somebody coming in who was very weak. In fact, the Biden people, when they were trying to keep him in the race, kept telling everyone that would listen that she would be a disaster, basically trying to sink her in order to keep him afloat. And then, what I would just say about her, the way she handled herself on the campaign trail, I think it was better than some of the Democrats thought, but she really hadn't planned out what it was that her vision was for the United States. And I think that that's a fatal flaw for any candidate.
Jonathan Allen, author or co-author with Amy Parnes of Fight about the last presidential election. Thank you very much indeed.
He called for the, quote, termination of the Constitution of the United States. And let us be clear. Someone who suggests we should terminate the Constitution of the United States of America should never again stand behind